Welcome back to Matchbook's Weekend Football Podcast. It's been a tricky couple of weeks, guys. It's just been one of those. We're just kind of few games are kind of hitting the crossbar. But you know what? Nature heals itself in time. We will turn this around a bit. And we've got the international break. And after the last international break, we did very well. And prior to that, we did as well. Adrian, Clarke, your best bet last week, mate. It was a funny one because it was under 2.5 at the Emirates. You're kind of a weird. If you're going to lose any best bet, it might as well be with an Arsenal win.
Well, I texted you in the game, didn't I? When that third goal went in, Emirates erupted. I thought, look, I've just got to say it. I absolutely don't mind losing this bet. It's brilliant. It was, it was awesome to be there. It was a fantastic day. Yeah. Great noise, excellent Arsenal performance. It's always nice. When I've got my Gunners hat on to see an abysmal Spurs performance, and when we were treated to that, so yeah, it was a great day. But look, let's not get carried away. I still don't regret what we said in the show because everything pointed towards a tight game. But Arsenal raised their game.
Yeah, Mark O'Hare, that late Tottenham goal took down your under 3.5 double. But your under 3.5 double during the week in the Champions League bet did click. But what of that main game? We obviously backed under 2.5 in Chelsea and City. It was a no doubter. Adrian also obviously kind of flagged under 1.5 at 3.4. That was an exceptionally impressive performance from City.
Yeah, I think I said it on our Champions League show that I think as a one-off performance in one of those matches of real magnitude, one of the big six against big six teams or matches, I think Man City's performance last week at Stamford Bridge would have been up there for me as one of the best in the last couple of seasons. I thought they were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Not just with the ball, but without the ball. Their pressing absolutely suffocated Chelsea and completely deserved the win. Chelsea had no real answer to it. And I was massively impressed by Manchester City. But yeah, they could have won that game more comfortably as well. In fairness, Mendy made a few really smart saves. City, I thought the way in which they went about their business to try and win that game by more than just the one goal was really quite impressive, and it sets up this weekend's match against Liverpool really quite nicely because if they play with that sort of intent, we should be in for a fantastic fixture.
You did my job for me. Beautiful segue. Let's take a look at the betting as we have it currently at matchbook.com. And Mark, I'll come to you here first, but let's take a look at the betting. As I said, Liverpool 3.0, City at 2.52, the draw available at 3.6. Liverpool getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap, which appears inside of matchbook.com at 0.0/0.5. So you keep the draw on site, 50% of your wins there. 2.75 is the total, and that's slightly shaded towards the under. Mark O'Hare, I wonder with Liverpool, we've talked about Manchester City last weekend, obviously Chelsea with the big signings. They're still a small bit under the radar. You're not going to see them too many times at home at Anfield at 3.0. Do they present the value in this one for you?
Yeah, I think they definitely do. I'd rather be on the Liverpool board, Liverpool bus than Man City at those prices and those quotes and those lines. Certainly, there was two angles that I sort of scribbled down. One of which was Liverpool plus a quarter, the other of which was over 2.5 goals. Because I don't think you get over 2.5. It's sort of close to 1.8 in a game between Liverpool and Man City too often. Big game this obviously, and that normally tends to sort of lead us towards a bit more of a tighter, more cautious affair. But this fixture is always entertaining. It's always absorbing. I just think the coaches in charge of the two teams, plus the players on show, lend itself to be a kind of end-to-end exciting game. 8 of the last 10 Premier League or Champions League meetings between the two have gone over 2.5 goals. And even without that stat, I'd be sort of inclined to think this was more of an overs than an unders game. You don't want to be backing unders in this sort of match, do you, with these players and these teams and coaches in show? So, a lot of the games last year were pretty turgid affairs between the big teams, but I think Liverpool always played with a degree of intent. And I think it's Klopp's style to play with a handbrake off regardless. So I think they'll approach this game with a level of intensity and intent to win. And I think we saw Man City last week at Chelsea do that too. So, both teams have played Chelsea. And I think you look at the first half at Anfield between Liverpool and Chelsea, it was quite frenetic. It was quite helter-skelter. The red card did change the complexion of that match. And as I say, City last week did play with the intent to go and win the match and win it quite comfortably too. So they've had a difficult week, clearly, playing Chelsea, then PSG. It's bound to have some sort of an effect. And I'm sure Pep will fresh things up a little bit, but that has to be taken into consideration. Going to Anfield is a place where they haven't normally enjoyed their recent trips. They'd won 4-1 last year, but almost just ruled that out completely. No fans at Anfield. Liverpool had Henderson and Fabinho playing at centre-half. That's their only win in their last 5 trips since 2017-18 across Premier League and the Champions League. and their average price in those 5 games was 2.46. So they've always been quite heavily favoured, but not often delivered. So yeah, immediately Liverpool plus a quarter stands out. But yeah, going forward, they've looked really impressive now. I think they've scored 3 goals or more in 6 of 8 Premier League or Champions League appearances. But defensively, I still think there are a couple of question marks. I don't think Liverpool are quite yet at the title-winning standards that they set. Trent is missing here as well, which means you might have Milner playing at right back, or Gomez might slot in to be a bit more defensive potentially. But they're up against Grealish, which that's a mismatch really. So that's something to watch out for. But yeah, the market is expecting 2.9 goals here. Liverpool's home Premier League games against top 6 finishers under Klopp have averaged 2.92 goals. And as I said, this match tends to produce goals as well. So definitely don't want to be an unders backer in this match. Would look towards an overs game with Liverpool with the start as well.
Adrian, Mark touched on it there in terms of Alexander-Arnold being out, and I wonder too with this Liverpool side, are we better off kind of backing them early this season, because you do kind of still have that sense that 11 on 11, very similar to teams like in the Champions League, like Bayern Munich or whatever else, they're very strong. But with outside of that, later on in the season, if those injuries occur again like they did last season, this might be the good time to be back in Liverpool early in the year rather than later.
Yeah, the depth maybe isn't the same. Certainly not, as City or Chelsea. So, I see where you're coming from. I mean, Alexander-Arnold will be a big miss going forward. His set pieces are obviously absolute class. But in a defensive capacity, I think I'd rather have Joe Gomez maybe in that position in this game. It might help them defensively. It will unbalance them a little bit in terms of the way they go forward. But for me, it's about the front three. The front three have been exceptional for Liverpool, in my opinion, this season. All are in good form. I think Salah and Mane have both had the joint most shots in the division, most shots inside the box in the division. And all three, if you chuck in Diogo Jota into the mix, all three are in the top 10 for individuals in terms of expected goals. So they're a real threat. And if Liverpool can avoid being strangled in the way that City did it to Chelsea, then I think they'll be all right. And the reason I'm more confident that Liverpool can avoid that is that Anfield games are played at a frenetic pace in front of the big crowds. I think that they'll rise to it. But also Van Dijk's passing. And Van Dijk goes from back to front very, very quickly and with great accuracy. I think that could negate some of City's excellent defending from the front. So yeah, look, I'm with Mark here. I even though City were brilliant last weekend, I do think that a third massive test in a week is going to be exhausting. The intensity, the mental strain of those 2 games, I believe it will lead to a little bit of fatigue here, even if Pep does freshen up the starting 11. So for me, Liverpool at home, big game in front of the full house. Had an easier ride in midweek. I like them on the handicap. I really do. And Pep doesn't have a great record, as Mark was pointing out, against Klopp. I think he's lost more games against Klopp in all competitions than he has against any other manager. So Klopp's style against Pep's style often favours the Kloppites. For me, Liverpool plus a quarter is my preferred selection.
One thing I didn't mention, Sully, which I probably should have as well, is last season Liverpool were top at Christmas. Was it Christmas or around December anyway? And then they fell off a cliff for 2 months or so. But I think since March, I don't have the exact date to hand. Since March, Liverpool's results have been almost flawless, and their performance data as well during that time since March has been as good, if not better, than Man City's as well. So they have been tracking on a really, really good pace for quite some time now, not just this season. And you could almost say that over the past 3 seasons, Liverpool have only really had 2 bad months. Apart from that, they've been as good or just trading just below sort of City. So to see them at that kind of price, particularly at home with that start, does appeal.
Yeah, and I wonder within that, and he's not going to say it obviously, but if you had said to Pep prior to last Saturday that you could get a win at Chelsea, maybe possibly a draw at Liverpool, and look, the Champions League is the Champions League. They're still going to come out of that group no problem at all. Considering like everyone's panicking about PSG beat them. Who really cares at that spot? They're still going to qualify. So, but I wonder even I think where they were aggressors last week. I think it's going to be Liverpool that are going to be the aggressors. They're potentially going to take the game way more than Chelsea was there. So I like the angle here of Liverpool plus a quarter. We make money if they avoid defeat, which is fundamentally of that part. And we also get full stakes if they actually win the game. So, yeah, let's take that part. Don't disagree with the over 2.5 mark, by the way. But I think just the way you guys are discussing, I think there's probably more of an alignment there with the handicap. So Liverpool plus a quarter with Piers on site, as I said, plus 0.0/0.5 is the selected play. Currently 1.82, which is just under 5 to 6 in fractional terms. All right, let's move on. Adrian, I'll start with you for this one here. This looks a good game. West Ham, Brentford. Also, earlier kickoff on Sunday. So we're keeping kind of Sunday top heavy again this week. West Ham, you can back at 1.85. Brentford at 5.0. The draw available at 3.7. Brentford getting 3/4 of a goal start on the Asian handicap at 1.81, and the main goal line is 2.5. Adrian, yeah, I touched on it there. This looks a good game. You fancying goals angle maybe?
I'm not sure.
West Ham you fancy? Sorry,
I'm not sure about the goals angle. I can't quite make my mind up what sort of game this is going to be, because Brentford have been really good on the road. You have to say that they've been solid, hard to play against. They've been good on the break. You know, when they've been really efficient. When they've got those opportunities to go and hurt someone, they've done it. And I think that Tony's been great in that regard, and Bromo is pretty good on the break as well. So, but I think all of their away games have been under 2.5 goals. But then when you look at West Ham and you think, well, their home games often feature a lot of goals, and I don't think they've kept a clean sheet at home yet, West Ham. So I'm a bit torn on the goals angle, but I am leaning towards a home win. Nothing against Brentford. I just feel that maybe things will start to level out for them. I think it's been a great start, but West Ham are a top Premier League side now. I don't think there's any denying that. You just have to look at the stats. I think in 2021 at home, only Man City and Spurs have earned more points than West Ham. So they're consistently delivering wins, draw, win, draw. The occasional defeat. It's a very strong home record, and man for man, I make them a lot stronger than Brentford. Obviously, they've got Antonio, who's in great nick. Benrahma. I mean, so many of their players are in good form. Did give up a lot of chances, I thought, in the Leeds game. A little bit lucky maybe to come out with the win, but they always look so dangerous. Yeah. So I just think that West Ham are so confident that I have to back them in this game. But I do think Brentford can be competitive, and it won't be I don't think it'll be a runaway win. But I would fancy West Ham. The reason I've made the on the nose selection is I think the price is pretty reasonable for West Ham at home, given the record I've just talked about, the third best. So that's a better home record than Liverpool, than Manchester United, than loads of than Chelsea actually in 2021. It's remarkable. So 1.85. Yeah, that's where I'm going here.
Good team, the Hammers. Mark, I read my notes wrong. It's you that like the goals angle in this one.
Yeah, this is a tricky game. Solly, this was your game you put in, and I'm wondering why you did.
Yeah. I like the look of it. Yeah.
He's got to put in the odd curveball, hasn't he? He's got to chuck a grenade in here and there.
I toyed with the idea of putting West Ham up. Europa League commitments on Thursday, slightly off-putting. I know they're only at home to Rapid, and Moyes kept quite a strong core going into the first match day in Zagreb, so I expect him to do something similar, particularly playing at home. We'll be able to ring the changes if the game is going their way early doors, and they are ranking pretty well on my metrics. And Adrian's talked about their strong home form too. The caveat I'd have so far for West Ham is the schedule's been pretty kind. 5 of their first 6 games are coming against bottom 8 teams at the moment. They lost to Man United. Noble's penalty will be remembered, but United could and should have probably had a few penalties of their own and probably won that match anyhow. So I am finding West Ham quite hard to place at the moment in terms of, are they top 6 contenders? Are they just top half team, or what? Where are they going to be this season? I am struggling to kind of pinpoint them at the moment. And that match against Leeds last week was thrilling. It was so much fun. And that's kind of been the embodiment of their season so far, or at least Moyes' second spell. 5 of their first 6 games this season have seen both teams score. Go back to the beginning of last season, 66% of their league games went over 2.5, 61% saw both teams scoring. And those figures are almost just as strong at the London Stadium as well, where they've only failed to score in 3 of the last 22 games. But I just kind of look at the price, and then I look at the odds on both teams to score, which does feel a little bit too big for a Premier League game, particularly with West Ham involved, because they do tend to play quite expressive football. They do tend to give you an opportunity. And I think Brentford will be encouraged by what happened last week against Liverpool. It's probably the first time we've seen them come out and be quite proactive and positive and almost kind of release the shackles a little bit. They have been quite pragmatic through the early parts of the season. And it was fantastic fun, 3-3 against Liverpool. They'll come into this game with plenty of confidence on the back of that. And they'll probably look at West Ham and think, this game is going to be similar-ish in terms of how it might play out, at least with the way West Ham want to play anyway. So there's opportunity for us to go and hurt them. I don't sort of rate West Ham particularly defensively. And I look back to Brentford's 2-0 win away at Wolves, where it was a little bit more open than potentially the full-time score suggested. They could and should have probably have conceded in that game. The previous road trip was a 1-1 at Villa. But yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one. I just thought the price on both teams to score 1.86 or so was slightly on the large side for a Premier League game involving two teams who I expect to be, clear of relegation trouble and probably outside the top six.
Well, what we could take West Ham to win and both teams score, which is 4.0, and have a small play on that. But Adrian, if I was going to pick one of your ones, I would probably go West Ham in this spot. So is there enough of a confidence there in West Ham to select it as the play?
Yeah, but Mark makes a good point. They're not uber secure at the back. That much is sure is for sure. And Brentford gave Liverpool a game, didn't they? It was really impressive. I mean, the goals were scrappy. But look, if they're going to put the ball into the danger zone, then West Ham could crumble in a similar way. I don't know. It's a hard game to call. I do fancy West Ham, but I could definitely get on side with both teams to score. I mean, maybe we should couple them up and just for a little bit of fun.
Easy. I can make it easy and just take a pass on this game myself. I'm more than happy to do that.
No, but I think Brentford are more than capable of scoring in the game. I would expect the Hammers to score at least one. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice little price, isn't it? If you had a little nibble on it. Yeah,
3-1 or 4.0. But yeah, let's take West Ham. So after all that, we're going to take West Ham 1.85. Mark, I'll give you the nod for next one because I actually really like this angle here as well. The next game we're covering is Tottenham versus Aston Villa, and guys, Nuno mightn't be long for this world, let me tell you guys. He's 2.18 at home, 3.65 Villa. Fresh from that win at Old Trafford. Never forget their big price draw, 3.65. Villa are getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap at 2.06, but we may just discuss Villa plus a half a goal straight up there at some stage here as well. And 2.5. Mark, kind of giving the game away here. You're thinking Villa are the value in North London.
Yeah. I mean, I said last week before the North London derby, I didn't think Spurs had received their fair share of flack for their early season performances compared to Arsenal, but it's certainly changed in the past 7 days.
Yeah, that's for sure.
They were, we don't need to go over it, but they were turgid, weren't they? Nuno understandably getting heat, and this is a huge match going into an international break. If he doesn't get a performance out of these players, definitely his future is under consideration. They're playing the Conference League on Thursday night against Mura. Almost irrelevant. Doesn't matter what Spurs do in that. The only thing that can happen is a negative, really. If they don't thrash them, there'll be questions. If they don't win, there'll be questions. So massive pressure on this game. They initially opened at 1.8, drifted out to what is it now? Nearly 2.2. That's a big shift. When you consider they were 1.64 for this fixture as recently as May, feels like the market has completely written off Spurs and their current guys. And to be honest, I couldn't be with them at all. They actually lost that game against Villa in May, 2-1. Jack Grealish did play. But yeah, just at the moment, it feels like an extension of the Jose Mourinho era. Nuno wasn't the first choice. I think that's common knowledge.
He's the fifth choice, yeah.
Nice guy, talented coach, but just unsuitable for the current job with Tottenham. Conceding 3 goals in 3 consecutive Premier League games isn't good enough for Spurs. The win against Watford was the only match in which they've really kind of probably deserved something out of a match. Kane's clearly not in a good way right now. I don't agree with the criticism about him dropping deep, because that's something we were lauding him for last season, but clearly something's not quite right there. The midfield is ponderous. The system doesn't seem to suit the players. Yeah, it's not good right now. I looked at their record at home in the Premier League at evens or bigger since the start of last season. They've only won 3 of those 9 games. 2 of them were against Man City, where they were completely outplayed and somehow managed to burgle the points. So you look at Aston Villa, really, really impressed with what they did at Stamford Bridge. Really impressed again by what they did at Old Trafford. Watched that match, sort of double screening last week, and absolutely deserved the points despite the last penalty. If they can reach anything close to those standards against Spurs, they don't lose. So they've had a full week to prepare. No new injuries, no suspensions, finding their range quite nicely now. I've got them 5th on expected points. I've got Spurs bottom 5 for almost every metric. Spurs aren't for me right now. And whilst the market has moved massively against them already, I still think there might be a bit of value in opposing them again this weekend.
Yeah, so the selection are Villa plus a half a goal at 1.79 currently a match book. We keep the draw on side as well, and we're basically just banking. We're laying Tottenham, which is fundamentally in. And Adrian, the market has written off Tottenham and Nuno. Are you in a similar boat?
Yeah, look, I think that's a good bet. I really do. I think Villa plus half a goal, at that price is very attractive. Yeah, they were so poor. Obviously, they've leaked 3 goals now, Spurs, in 3 successive games. That's got to hurt. It's not done anything for their confidence. They look weak at the back, I have to say. Arsenal backed off in the second half, just protecting really what they got. Look, I don't buy into the fact that Spurs can't score goals. I mean, Kane had a few efforts. There was the Son goal, which was nicely worked. Brian Hill, I thought looked quite good when he came on. I think it's time for him to get a game, if I'm honest. I think that team desperately needs some injection of creativity. I didn't think Kane was by any means one of their worst players. I thought at times he looked like he could easily have scored. So yeah, look, it might be the case that he comes good in this game, but with Nuno under pressure, the mood very, very low at Spurs, confidence shot to pieces really at the back, and Villa going there on the back of winning at Old Trafford, it does point towards Villa making this really uncomfortable for them. They've scored in all but one match so far this season, Villa. They've actually scored in 14 of their last 16 Premier League games, Villa. So home or away, they normally get one or, and if, look, can anyone here, be that confident that Spurs could score 2 or more in this game? I'm not sure. So yeah, I would go with Mark's pick. I like both teams to score because I think based on that stat I've just said, Villa will score in the game, but with Son and Kane and hopefully from their point of view a little bit of fight, I would expect Spurs to get on the score sheet. So yeah, it's a similar price. I think last time I looked, both teams to score was 1.75, but Villa plus a half a goal, slightly better odds. I think we should take that one, Sully.
Yeah, I think that word fight in Tottenham at the moment, they're not really related, but they may just come good this weekend. You never know. But yeah, look, I really believe in this bet as well. To be honest, one of the first ones that jumped out of me, Villa plus half a goal. Happy to lay Tottenham at the moment. All right, Manchester United. All right. I don't know where we start with these guys. Adrian, start with you for the first of all, but let's take a look at the betting. They're 1.54 at home to Everton. Everton you could back at 7.6. The draw available 4.4. Everton getting a 1 goal start on the Asian handicap at 2.08, and 2.5 is the total shaded towards the overs. Adrian, like I know that we're recording this on Thursday morning. There's that buoyancy after that late goal against Villarreal, but geez, like that first half, Villarreal could have been 2 or 3-0 up. And again, we go back to the previous against Villa last. I don't know. It's very hard to get a read on this team at the moment, right?
Yeah, you can't be confident in supporting Manchester United at the moment. Not a starting price like that. Was it 1.54?
Yeah.
I mean, no thanks. No. It's they're relying on individual magic, aren't they, to get them results. I think tactically they are a bit all over the shop. I've defended Ollie in the past, but for right now they're definitely not in a good place.
Even the press last night, I've never seen a team come to Old Trafford with United fresh Malas in Switzerland. They're just standing off them. It's not what they do. They're not going to do that when it's Ronaldo that's leading the line. It's part of the sacrifice, isn't it? I think home record's not great.
is it Manchester United? I mean, they've since they last lost away, they've lost 8 home games, which is just mad, really.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
mad we did, buddy.
it's
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
crazy stat. They've conceded at least once in all of their last 8 Premier League games as well. It might mean what's happened in the last few weeks. It might mean there's an additional focus on being a bit tighter at the back. I think, managers and players aren't daft. If something is clearly going wrong, you're too open, there comes a point where you have to say, right, we think we need to do something about that. So I have looked at the unders market, actually, because I know that everything's pointing towards overs, but I do think this might be a slightly more circumspect Manchester United performance because of the pressure. And if you look at it from Everton's angle, they're still without Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who for me is a brilliant player in Premier League terms. And I don't think they have the same punch without him. So even though you might like Everton's chances here, you might think that they're going to be competitive. And I do think that they can be competitive. Does anyone really fancy them to go and score 2 or 3 goals? I don't know. I'm not sure. Not sure. Townsend and Gray in good nick, yes. But yeah, I'm not sure I can get on side with them, making this a 3-3 like last year. That was this fixture, wasn't it, last year? I don't know whether it's going to be that type of game, even though Everton have been leaking goals themselves. So yeah, it is a tough one. All I'll say is that Everton have a very good away record against the bigger teams. They lost 2 of 9 away to the teams in the top half last season. 2 of 9. So 7 unbeaten against top half sides on the road. So this is a team that's used to going away and sort of grinding out either narrow wins or draws. That's kind of how I see this game. So under 2.75 appealed to me for those reasons. 1.84. But Everton on a handicap is something we should probably look at too.
And Mark picked that up. So like even Everton plus 1.25. So even if they lose by 1 goal, you're making 50% of your stake. Is that the way in terms of a bet in this one?
Yeah, I like that. I mean, just in simple terms, to go into a game knowing that the opposition needs to beat you by 2 goals or more, from the first whistle, just to lose your stake is always quite appealing. It's like the draw no bet when you almost start knowing that you've not lost your cash. Whereas when you're backing someone to win or cover a handicap, you need them to go and do the business. So that always appeals to me. I know Everton come into this game weakened compared to what the team played in that 3-3. No Calvert-Lewin, no Richarlison, no Coleman. I know that front 4, Townsend, Iwobi, Gray, Rondon, it's not particularly inspiring for Premier League standards, particularly top half standards. However, I do think they've got the advantage in the dugout. I think Rafa Benitez will absolutely relish the opportunity to take a team like Everton as underdogs to Old Trafford and produce or mastermind some sort of performance out of them, considering the circumstances surrounding Man United right now, whereas Adrian summed up perfect. There's no plan at the moment. There's no idea of what they're trying to achieve. It's just get these great players on the pitch and hope something will happen. I think Maguire is a big miss at centre half. Varane looked massively unsure of himself in midweek. Lindelof, that partnership is in. I think that was probably the first time they might have played together, actually. And also, you need to bear in mind that they played Wednesday night. This is the early kickoff on Saturday, which is quite harsh, really, on the schedule. I know they've got the squad to cope with it, and they shouldn't really complain because the budget that they spent on that squad. But still, that's something to bear in mind as well. And I did a look at United's record at Old Trafford, which is, I think it's a 50% win rate at home since the start of last season in the Premier League. Not good enough for the team of their standards. They've conceded in 14 of those 22 games, just 1 clean sheet all season, and that was against Wolves when they were second best. And I looked at their record in this kind of patch when United have started with a -1 Asian handicap, as well as the 2 handicaps either side, the -3/4 and the -1.25 goal. And there's been 18 examples since the start of 1920. And they've only won by 2 or more goals in 8 of those, which is a 44% hit rate with just 5 clean sheets, which isn't great. And Everton at the same sort of stretch with a +3/4 goal start to a +1.25 goal start have been very, very competitive. Adrian touched on it there. Their away record as top teams has been good. Just 2 defeats in that sort of sample, one of which was Chelsea in March under Thomas Tuchel's resurgence. And the other defeat by 2 or more goals was against Liverpool during their title-winning campaign. So Everton do tend to put on a performance and be competitive in these games. And I think, just going back to the very beginning there, if you're starting needing Everton to lose by 2 or more goals just to lose your stake, then I think you're in a decent position. So I don't have a hugely strong view here. I just think the way in which United have performed recently, particularly against Aston Villa and Villarreal, in similar sort of circumstances, I think Everton will take a similar sort of approach. It makes sense to just oppose that big handicap.
You both of you guys touched on different ways there, but if you're relying on individual brilliance, and this goes for all sport, it doesn't last. It doesn't last in the long term. It might in the short term, and yes, you'll get the highlight reels like last night and Ronaldo, and that's great. But like the team is always bigger than the individual in a long Premier League season, and that's the last couple of winners. They didn't just do it because of individual brilliance; they're all just good teams and well coached. That's another part of it.
I saw a headline on BBC Sport. I'm not sure where it's from, but it said Man United match winner brings reminder of glory days about Ronaldo last night. And I thought, how far away from the truth could you be if you've watched that 90-minute performance against Villarreal? It was so far away from the glory days. It's unbelievable. Like, they've got no chance of winning the Champions League this season. I beg his belief, to be honest. It's just scoreboard journalism, and that's the kind of thing that just grinds my gears massively.
Yeah, it's poor. Anyway. It's poor. I tell you what, going back to the game, the midfields, I think that I don't think I'd swap Everton's midfield for United. I think that could be the key to putting on a really solid team performance. At Alan and Doucouré in particular,
you're not buying as well. You're not buying Matic, Fred, all these guys.
I've never. Do you know what? Matic is a player that has always driven me up the wall because he's had, I think, 2 or 3 outstanding seasons, but I would say he's had 5 or 6 terrible seasons. I always felt, even when he was kind of at his peak, that it wasn't a player that I liked, that I felt that you could rely upon. Something in his, I think it's an attitude thing where he sort of, when he fancies it, he's good, but doesn't always fancy it. Look, Manchester United have made a cardinal sin not strengthening their central midfield in the summer. They spent all their money on Sancho and Ronaldo, and you get why, and Varane, you get why. But the problem position was in central midfield, and they'll pay for that because they're now unlikely, I think, to finish above 4th.
They could go back a few years post David Moyes when Van Gaal came in. It has that kind of top-heavy kind of feel, and you just buy good players and talent, and you don't really kind of figure out where to actually work as a unit. All right, we could spend a lot more time in Manchester United. We already do. It's going to please a few people as well.
I was going to say hello to the Matchbook United fans.
Stop listening, mate. If they know what we're talking about again, and I actually put our bets in one of our internal channels here as well, and every time they see a United game up and we're going against them. Hey, we backed them as well this year. We are somewhat balanced in that sense.
No, if we're not here next week, it's the powers that be that have pulled the plug with our anti-United agenda.
Yeah. You're all good with that, mate. I got you sorted. I got your back on that one. All right, just before we get to the latter half of the games, we touched on it there with the Asian handicap. So I'll be honest, that is one of the great things about the exchange, I find, anyway, personally. And the amazing amount of people who actually can't get Asian handicaps, don't understand them. I have a friend who's a maths teacher who doesn't listen to this podcast, and he can't get them. And they're not that hard. So do check up. We have a good article on this on insights.matchbook.com on Asian handicaps. It is the way to go, in all honesty. And while you're there, if you do want to sign up for a Matchbook account, all the price that we are quoting there, Everton plus 1.25. So with that bet as well, like the guys said, you'll have to lose by 2 goals or more to actually lose any of your stakes. So 50% profit, even if Everton lose by a goal. Use the bonus code INSIGHTS15 when signing up for a 15 quid free bet after you place your first bet. That's INSIGHTS15 for a 15 quid free bet. That's bet 10, get 15. Full terms, conditions of that offer is on insights.matchbook.com. And also in insights.matchbook.com, full recap of all of these bets. Let's do a very quick recap of the main games before we go to EFL and Serie A. Liverpool plus a quarter, 1.82. West Ham at 1.85. Villa plus a half a goal, which obviously keeps the draw on side as well at 1.79, and Everton plus 1.25 at 1.78. Insights.matchbook.com, 2 or 3 hours post-recording for a full recap of those bets. AC, an under. We're back at the EFL unders. Like to see it. Yeah, winter is coming.
Winter's here. The nights are drawing in and the championship unders come out to play. That's how it works. Yeah. Look, these are two not very exciting teams. I've got to say, it's a bit of a derby, isn't it? I mean, not that close, but kind of. So they often tend to be a bit cagey, don't they? Look, 7 of Hull's last 8 games have featured 2 goals or less. So Hull have been involved in some really, really close games. Every Middlesbrough away game has had under 2.5 goals. They're both really low on open play expected goals. They not too bad on set pieces, but in open play, neither side's creating a great deal. Hull City, the lowest scorers in the Championship, only six goals this season. So look, for me, 2 teams that are struggling at the top end of the pitch. I see this being kicked tight, 0-0, 1-0 either way, maybe 1 apiece. So yeah, I think under 2.25 isn't priced too badly actually at 1.89. So that's where I'm going in the Championship.
Going straight into the under 3.5 ACA. Thank you, AC. Forest Green to beat Carlisle at 2.5 is your section. Big price there.
Yeah, the price is the main reason I've picked this. I mean, whoever's put this price up maybe hasn't seen too much of Forest Green. They're a great team. Best away record in League Two. They're the leaders, top scorers. Rob Edwards is the guy. He's one of these new breed of managers that came from the FA. Been working with the junior teams there, and they're playing some lovely stuff. Really good, using the wings. The wing backs are on fire. The 2 strikers, Jamil Matt, Matty Stevens, both sort of up in the top end in the sort of chase for the Golden Boot. So yeah, there's loads to like about Forest Green. And then you look at Carlisle, who are actually unbeaten at home, but they're having a bad time. Really bad time. They're lower half. The fans are really on the back of the manager, Chris Beach. There's a few shouts for Beach out. Bit of unrest behind the scenes. No clean sheet in 6. They've conceded 12 goals. I just feel that this is maybe the end of Carlisle's unbeaten home record against a team that is in effect playing miles better than them. 2.5. I mean, I don't think that's going to last. So yeah, as soon as we come off this podcast, I think I'm gonna have a little go on that. Yeah, can't see it lengthening.
All right, yeah, I'd like to look at that. Mark O'Hare, 2 Serie A bets this week. Fiorentina against Napoli. Fiorentina under the best named Vincenzo Italiano. It's like, is there any more Italian name? They're a good watch, and they did well to keep hold of Vlahovic there over the last transfer window as well. They're a good watch. They're home to Napoli, and over 2.5 is the bet.
Yeah, they are. I mean, Serie A almost full stop is a great watch at the moment. Running hot at the moment through 6 rounds, 3.23 goals per game, 68% of games featuring over 2.5 goals. If you just turn that percentage hit rate into implied odds, you're looking at overs being a flat 1.5. Now, obviously, that's a really crude and unscientific way of pricing up matches, but just kind of gives you an idea of the amount of goals in Italy right now. I mean, it's been fantastic for a while. Last season, 3.06 goals per game. The season before, 3.04. Overs hit 57% of the time last year, 63% the year before. So this isn't just an early season quirk. Italian football has been end-to-end, exciting, entertaining. You mentioned Italiano. He's done a great job early doors of Fiorentina. Former Spezia coach. I didn't have a huge amount of faith in what he was going to do there. Fiorentina have kind of shuffled about for quite some time now and sort of lost their identity through the years. But they're playing some really cavalier football at the moment, very front foot, looking to keep the ball and get it forward as quick as they can. He's instructing his players to be expressive in possession, but also when possession is turned over, they're pressing like hell at the moment, and it's turning into games similar to what we see with Leeds at times. It's been great fun. I think 5 of their 6 games have featured over 2.5 goals. You mentioned Vlahovic. When he's at the top end, they've always got a chance. And he's coming up against Napoli forward Victor Osimhen, who's started the season on fire as well, as have Napoli, actually. 6 wins from 6, scoring 2 goals or more in all 6 of their games under Spalletti. The schedule has been kind, but they did beat Juventus in that stretch as well. So they're involved in Europa League action on Thursday night. They normally rest and rotate for that. So don't expect too much sort of issues there. But I'm expecting this to be quite chaotic, quite entertaining. goals at both ends, and I just think the line is a little bit too shy there. I think the way Fiorentina are playing at the moment, it lends itself to goal-filled games. They went away to Atalanta and won 2-1, which was a real surprise. Took Atalanta by surprise, but they were beaten 3-1 by Roma and Inter, who are probably a sort of similar sort of scale to where Napoli are too. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see something similar play out. Just looking at the over 2.5 prices, it went off at 1.68 when Napoli went to Sampdoria recently, which is kind of similar to this sort of level of fixture, and it went off at 1.73 when Fiorentina hosted Inter as well. So we're getting north of 1.8 here. We'd expect that to contract before kickoff.
Yeah, not after, I'm saying this after the horse is bolted, but that Spalletti to Napoli fit, that's just such a great fit. Even opposed to maybe Sarri to Lazio, it just seems to work for them. Also in Serie A, you're liking Genoa away at Salernitana over 2.25.
Yeah, we mentioned the goal stats there in Italy, not just this season, but beforehand. And I think it's reflected this weekend. You've got 7 of the 10 league games in Italy with a goal line set at about 2 3/4 or above. Obviously, you can sort of take the 2.5 at a slightly lesser price, as we have done at Fiorentina. But Salernitana coming in at 2 1/4 just doesn't make sense to me at all. That's a really low goal line for Italy. Normally that's kind of reserved for a Udinese playing, but outside of that, it's normally a flat 2.5 or bigger. So immediately that caught the attention. You look at the opening 6 games for both of these two teams, the XG average per game is sitting at 2.7 or above. Combine the two teams together, Overs has copped in 10 of 12 games, and their average goals per game collated comes in at 3.67, which is huge. Now, obviously, a lot of that's built down to dreadful defences, but Genoa are kind of being priced up on previous campaigns where they've been quite dour. This time around, they're under Thiago Motta's tutorship, and he is definitely not a defensive coach. He's got some wacky and wild ideas about how he wants his team to play. Their games this season, 2-2 against Bologna, 3-2 against Cagliari, 3-3 against Verona, kind of teams towards the bottom end of Serie A. But they're winless at the moment as well. So they're going to go to Salernitana as this is a fantastic opportunity to get our season up and running. Whereas Salernitana will see this as a great opportunity as well to get their first points on a first victory on the board as well. They were nilled by Sassuolo last week, but they forced loads of great opportunities, created over 1.5 XG in that game, gave Atalanta a really tough time here a couple of weeks ago at home, played out an enjoyable 2-2 draw with Verona in their most recent home outing as well. So, yeah, I'm expecting this game to be, I think when both teams, not of a similar stature, but both teams see it as a really winnable opportunity, you tend to get quite an exciting end-to-end game, and that tends to be the way in Italy anyway. So, yeah, just happy to take that low goal line. Where we'll get half our stake back if there's only 2 goals. Makes sense to me. So if there's 3 goals or more, we'll pay out in full. So yeah, that's the angle.
I'm old enough to remember when Serie A wasn't such a goal fest mark. There seems to be some turgid games, even going back into the 90s and early 2000s. But yeah, look, BT Sports are carrying it now as well on Sunday nights with the great James Richardson and James Horncastle. So yeah, check it out. There's some great games. Maybe not as the same quality in terms of players of the Premier League, but in terms of entertainment, it is definitely a terrific watch. All right, we've sold Serie A there. AC, what's your best bet of the weekend, Matt?
I'm torn because there's been some quite persuasive arguments today. I really like Liverpool plus the quarter in the big game, but on the basis of the odds and the price and the differential in form, for me, Forest Green to win at Carlisle, 2.5. I'm having that as my best bet, please.
All right. All of a sudden, I have an interest in that game. Probably didn't beforehand. Mark Clare, what's your best bet of the weekend, Matt?
The game I just talked about, actually, Salernitana against Genoa. I wrongly called Genoa's head coach Thiago Motta. It's not. It's Balladini. But the same statements apply anyhow. So, but yeah, this goal line should not be 2 1/4. It should be 2.5. Absolutely, as a starting point and moving on. So, yeah, expecting goals in that game.
Yeah, every now and again you got those market anomalies and you got to make it pay. My thanks to Adrian, my thanks to Mark. We're off, guys, for a week. It's international break. It be. It's a time to refresh, recharge the batteries. We'll be back on the 14th of October and we'll be with you for the rest of the year throughout the season. My thanks to Adrian, my thanks to Mark. Jen's a lot of fun as ever. Hopefully we'll guide you in the direction of some winners. Some good looks there, and check out insights.matchbook.com for a full recap of these bets and also details of our sign-up offer there as well. Until the 14th of October, bye for now.